Oh my God, y'all done messed around and pissed off the healing community, and now the healers are on strike. Dear God, and this is why we can't have nice things. YouTube, what's going on, man? It's Father Dark, and today we're going to be talking about something that is it's taken over the Reddit and Twitter Marvel rival community, and these are things I like to cover a lot of times, just to put some type of, because a lot of different people watch my content. We have good people that watch it that want to come in here and constantly yell skill issue. We have medium players, medium level players, low skill players, and everything in between. So I like to cover these topics simply because, as an older, like more chill guy who, I got a mortgage, wife, kids, all that kind of stuff. So, I've gotten to a point where, I feel like I have a different perspective than a lot of the people in the community. And that's not a jab at anyone, like, saying like your age or anything. It's just simply as you get older in life, you start to kind of have a different outlook on different things and a different perspective. And I like to provide that perspective. So, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it and for a little bit of context too. But before I actually get into that, I just want to say, I'm starting to promote the Discord. We're getting a lot of people in there, a lot of high skill players, medium skill players, low players, everything in between. We're trying to build a positive community where, you can find people to play. If EOMM is hitting you, really hard, then, you want to be able to find some people to link up with and join and just have a community of people that, are into the same things you are and stuff like that. Go ahead and feel free to join the Discord. It's in my channel bio, so you can just click that link and join it. Also too, you'll be able to have a little bit more of a direct access to be able to ask questions. We allow people to do self promo in there. There's a whole section for that, where if you're a content creator or you're trying to become one and you want to go ahead and share your content with other like-minded people and stuff like that, you have that option. It's all types of stuff in there, so just feel free to join that. But let's go ahead and get into the video. So Necros, I don't know if a lot of you know Necros, but Necros is a very skilled player. Now, I also just want to preface and say that anytime that I bring up a creator, there is no beef, there's no drama. We don't do that here on this channel in regards to other content creators. Everybody's allowed to have their opinions and their thoughts and stuff. I just simply talk about it and give my 2 cents on what I think about that particular topic. But I respect Necros. He's a great player. As someone who mains Spider-Man a lot of times, I play a lot of other players, don't worry. I mean, a lot of other characters, don't worry. It's not just a one-trick Spider-Man type of thing. It's just that I enjoy playing Spider-Man. But usually I'm ranked and stuff, I tend to play whatever the team needs. I'm more of a flex player. Nonetheless, though, as someone who likes to play Spider-Man and predominantly does, I have a lot of respect for Necros. Maybe not necessarily all of his takes on particular things, but that's neither here nor there. But I do respect him as a player. He apparently was one of the goats of Overwatch. I didn't play Overwatch as much, so I don't know as much about that. But I do believe that's where he got his origin, his start. If I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comments. But that's to my knowledge where he came from. Nonetheless, though, he has a very big audience, very big following. So when he says things, a lot of people either get very offended about it or they take it to heart, and everything in between. So the other day, or however long ago it was, he had made a comment saying something along the lines of, and I can't find the actual clip, but I did read through a lot of the comments to try to kind of gather what most of the people were saying and stuff, and what they had quoted him as saying. So he had made a comment about healers and saying that a lot of healers and supports are apparently, like he said, his words, not mine, that they're brain dead and that they're boosted, stuff like that. And apparently this comment was taken out of context. Now, I don't know if they're saying it was taken out of context because he was joking when he said it, or because he was talking to a particular person. Maybe he had a rough day where he was just getting absolutely decimated and he felt like his healers weren't healing enough. I don't know what happened with that. Like I said, I can't find the actual clip where he said it, but this is something that people are talking about. Nonetheless, some of the people said that it was taken out of context, and that he basically had said at some point too that healers were, one of the hardest roles, or at least it was very complicated, something to that effect, right? And people, we live in a day and age where people clip farm. They if you took a lot of the things that I say, and you took the context away and you just clipped a particular part and you fed that out there into the world, then, a lot of stuff that I said would sound very crazy. And context is very important. That's why I'm including it. But the point is that the majority of people don't get that context. Or they don't do enough investigation. They just kind of see a headline or a title, or, like I said, a clip where, someone just says, they take one small part of what someone says and they just run with that, right? Nonetheless, he said that, he said that, and, people are starting to get tired of the constant healers, I would say, are starting to get, tired of just like the constant berating that they're getting in game, constantly being told that they're not healing enough, enough and that they're not doing this or whatever, and DPS thinking that they're, the main character. And I'm speaking from, the healer's overall perspective of what I'm hearing from the healer community, right? And, I want to say that, I started out the game as a healer just because, I'm coming from playing FPS and stuff like that. This is like my first real, I played a little bit of Overwatch, but this is my first real experience, like really consistently playing a hero shooter. So when I first started playing, I was a healer because I was like, I'll leave tanking and DPS to people that understand the mechanics of the game a lot better than myself. So I started out as a healer, became, pretty decent at healing, got up to a decent rank last season, maining Cloak and Dagger and Invisible Woman, lorded both of them. I've dabbled with a couple of the other healers as well, but those were like my primary ones that I pretty much rely on. And, this season I went more into DPS and into tanking and stuff, and even a little bit more toward the end of last season. But still, though, the point I'm making is that, I've played all the different roles. So what I'm about to say is not going to be like I'm on the healer side, I'm on DPS side, or on tanks. Here we try to be, as unbiased as possible and try to just think about things from everyone's perspective instead of only thinking about it from whatever we feel like is our own perspective or what's most relevant to us or whatever the case is. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there. But the thing that I'm noticing is, and that I have noticed for a while, I'll give you an example. The other day I was, going back and forth with somebody. You know how it is. You win a match or you lose a match and you start going back and forth. You guys are smack talking each other in chat. You're sitting here saying, oh, you're boosted, or, oh, I did the best of my team even though we lost. And if I would have had better teammates, I would have absolutely obliterated your teammates. You had a healer pocketing you the whole time. So it wasn't really, fair for the 1v1s, whatever the case may be. You guys are going back and forth. I was going back and forth with a guy, and me and him are just talking junk to each other, and it's just kind of like, whatever, just normal stuff. I grew up in Modern Warfare 2 lobbies, so the stuff that we say in these lobbies are nothing, right? And one of the healers came in and just kind of was like, I can't remember exactly what they said, but it was something to the effect of like, you guys are calling each other trash, but we're all trash, or something like that. They were just trying to kind of like, put out the flame that was going on between us, right? And this other DPS guy, he immediately just jumps on the healer and starts going, yo, why are you even talking? You're at the bottom of the food chain. You're a heal bot. Just stick to heal body and don't, let the adults talk or whatever. And, this isn't the first time that I've seen that. This is a pretty constant thing where, it's the same thing where even in my comment section, a lot of times people will constantly say, if I make the point where I say like, hey, I put out 40K healing and, I had the most eliminations and all this other stuff. People always find a way to like put that down. They'll say, oh, well, you got them off of assists. It's like, no, the assists are the assists. The eliminations and the final hit should not be higher than like DPS if I'm having to DPS and heal. And, like I said, there's this really like, this fan base, I find it interesting because, or not fan base, but this player base is very interesting because, I came from Call of Duty. I've always expected Call of Duty to be toxic. My first my first experience playing Call of Duty was the early I'm as old as dirt. So it's like I've been playing Call of Duty since its inception. And, people always reference and talk about, sorry if there was a pause in the video, I just got a phone call. Nonetheless, though, the point that I was making is that, people always reference back to the Modern Warfare 2 lobbies and stuff and how toxic those were. And if you grew up with that was just what you understood gaming to be and all that kind of stuff. But that was just more trash talking between teams and stuff. It wasn't like it was directly at teammates and stuff. And I've started to see over the years how it's transformed into people having these massive egos when they play video games. And people have always had egos in video games. I mean, that's a tale as old as time, right? And that just, you can really apply that to a lot of different things, not just video games. It's just people are egotistical, period, right? Very few people that are actually just like team players and kind of selfless. Most people think that they're the main character. It's very hard for them to see outside of themselves and think outside of themselves. But, like I said, though, I'm starting to see more like toxicity toward your teammates, which is really weird to me. I don't understand that, because if you're on a team and you're playing together, why would you try to put each other down instead of trying to build each other up and then put that animosity that you have outward toward the enemy? Like that I understand, being toxic toward the enemy, talking junk. I mean, that's just a normal part of gaming, right? Like I feel like that's a healthy amount of it. But there's always like a Goldilocks level to stuff where it's, you don't want to go too far over or too far under, there's a level where you can be too toxic, and then there's, you're not saying anything at all, where people are just trash talking to you. It's however you personally choose to do it. I don't encourage any of it. It's just, I do what I do. Like I said, I'm from a different generation, so I have a little bit thicker skin and tend to not be offended and bothered by certain stuff. Whereas other people, they're a little more sensitive. They get offended by stuff, whatever. Some people that are in between that, whatever the case is. Nonetheless, though, the point that I wanted to make is that if you have never played a particular role, like let's say you're a DPS and you only play DPS and you don't know what a healer has to go through, then it's kind of hard to for anybody to take that seriously, because, I'm sure anybody who's listening to this who's a healer, you've seen you've been healing and there's a Moon Knight or I don't know, like a Psylocke or someone who's a mile away from everyone else, and they're hiding behind a wall pinging that they need heals when the whole team is fighting on the point. And it's what do you want us to do? Teleport to you? We don't possess that. We can't heal you through walls. There's not some magic button that we click where we can just heal you. Or the tank that completely dives into the enemy team and they're getting shot by everyone on the whole entire team, and they don't realize that you can't out heal. One person can't out heal 6 people all hitting them at once at point blank range. It's just not. That's not how that works, right? And it's the same thing. Like I said, you got to think about it from everybody's perspective. The same thing applies to other roles, right? If you're a tank and you're holding the enemy team back, and your healers are hiding around corners and stuff like that because they're scared to push up or whatever the case is, all of these things, they affect everything. So it's it's better to play every role so that you have a better understanding of it. You're not better than anyone else. If everyone decided to insta-lock DPS or insta-lock a tank or whatever the case is, or even vice versa, let's say it's everybody wants to just play healers and nobody wants to play anything else, right? Like DPS or tank, then, it creates a problem. Even though in this game there is no role queue, so it gives you the freedom to be able to have whatever you want. Lately in ranked, I've been seeing a lot of people run 3 tanks, 1 DPS, and 2 healers. I've seen 3 tanks, 3 healers, and then some people like the old school, Overwatch formula where it's 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 healers, and everything in between. And a lot of times people would say, oh, well, we need this particular comp, right? And then you would change it up and do your own thing. I've seen 3 DPS, 1 tank, 2 healers, right? So you never know what the outcome is going to be and what's going to work against that enemy team. But the overall point is that we have to understand that every role is complicated. I've played all of the roles and they all have their strengths and weaknesses. As a tank, your whole point is to make space, but you have to understand that if your team is getting dived in the back line, you have to turn around for a second. It's really easy as a tank to just start sitting here going, oh, I'm gonna swing my hammer as Thor, and I know you guys are gonna make the "that's what she said" jokes. Go ahead and get it out. Nonetheless, you gotta swing the hammer around. You're sitting here taking out their healers, working on the DPS, or you're sitting here 1v1ing another tank, whatever. And the whole time, Spider-Man or Iron Fist, Black Panther's in the back line destroying them. And you're like, well, where's my heals? Bro, your heals are dead. They've been dead. They're fighting for their lives, and no one's helping them, right? And meanwhile, if you try to do the same thing to the enemy's healers, they're jumping on it immediately, right? And a lot of that can be chopped up to them communicating, not communicating, whatever. There's a lot of different reasons why things like that happen. But the point that I'm making is that, every role has its own things that make it hard. As a healer, you can't just sit there and heal bot. You have to know, if you're Cloak and Dagger, you have to know when to blind the enemy to give that damage boost to you and your teammates and stuff. And to, just blind the enemy so it's harder for them to respond and see what's going on around them and make decisions and stuff. But you have to know, that's why it's called a strategist. You have to strategize. You have to know when to heal. If your teammates are all fully healed and you're just sitting there spamming heals at them, even though they're fully healed, but they're fighting somebody, and you just apply that extra little bit of damage to get them up out of there, you got to be able to do that. But same thing with DPS and tanks. You have to be aware that your healers need help sometimes, and I know a lot of people will say, well, a good healer doesn't need help. A lot of times they do. Sometimes you can figure it out for yourself and make it work, whatever. But then sometimes there's just people, as someone like a Spider-Man main, for example, my main thing is to go after the healers. That is my main job when I'm on a team. I immediately find a way to get around their backside, take out the healers, or even if I'm not taking out the healers, I have to make their life so miserable and distract them so much that they cannot physically focus on healing because they have to fight for their lives. It's just as simple as that. And like I said, it's the same thing with every role. DPS has its struggles. How many times I've been playing a DPS, and last night I was playing as Psylocke on a team, and I was at 2 HP. We had just taken out the final tank, and the healer, I stood right in front, I literally walked over to him, stood right in front of him. it was a visible woman. They move out of the way and continue to heal the tank. And when I turn around, the tank is fully healed. We're just standing there on the point waiting for it to be captured. And even the tank was kind of looking like, it was a Hulk. He's just looking like, why are you still healing me? I'm healed. This guy right here has no health. I ended up having to go get a health pack around the corner. It's stuff like that. And that's what I'm saying is not every healer is perfect. Some people heal and maybe they don't want to heal. Maybe they're just locked in on that tank and they just think as long as they heal bot the tank and just keep feeding them heals that they'll somehow win and like, well, the DPS can figure it out. And, when you're playing someone like Spider-Man, that's completely understandable. I don't expect healers to heal me when I'm playing Spider-Man because I'm never standing still. I'm always zipping around and moving from spot to spot. It's almost like impossible unless you're, Invisible Woman or Cloak and Dagger to be able to just, like sometimes Invisible Woman puts a shield up on me while I'm in mid-swing or something in the air. But even then, I'm only near it for half of a millisecond. So it provides very little anything. I even tell the healers, like, don't worry about me. I know where all the health packs are. I can immediately, swing over to a health pack the second that I become weak. So trying to heal me is like a waste of time versus the people that don't have the same level of mobility, which are most of the people in the whole entire game, right? So focus on them. But for, a character like Psylocke, sometimes like if I'm on the point fighting with you and I'm weak, just stop healing someone else for 2 seconds, put some heals on me. And that's the thing is like most healers have some option, like a secondary healing, like Cloak and Dagger, you have a bubble, Invisible Woman, you have a shield. I'll stand there for a split second behind it and keep putting out damage while I get some type of health and then keep it moving, But it's things like that. And like I said, if everybody just kind of like plays different roles and pays attention to everybody and actually stops trying to think that there's some type of like that one guy said, some food chain in the game. No, I guarantee you, if healers really go on a strike and there really are no healers, you will immediately feel it. There's a reason why there's different roles in the game and why it is a team-based game. Everybody has to like fill some type of role and everybody has to do it. And it's the same thing for healers. If your DPS aren't able to DPS because you're not healing them, you're just sitting there focusing on a tank or whatever the case may be, or you're spending more time trying to DPS as the healer than healing when you could do both, but like you gotta balance it out. But like I said, if everybody doesn't fill their role, if everyone doesn't fit their role and work together as a team, do you know how many matches I've known were going to be a W before it even started because I could see them arguing in the chat on the enemy team? All that time that you're spending going back and forth with each other, that's time you could be spent working together. And people want to sit back and say, oh, well, the healers are a sensitive bunch. Well, let me ask you this. If I walk into your job right now and I tell you, hey, man, listen, just flip my fries, man. Don't even look at me. Don't talk to me, bro. You're at the bottom of the food chain. Are you going to want to make fries for me and not spit on them? Or do it at all? No, you're not. So don't sit here and act like because it's a video game that it's any different because you're sitting behind a monitor or a screen or whatever it is you're using that, you feel more comfortable that you can just sit back and say things to people and expect them to just take it on the chin and be like, yeah, whatever. He just said I was at the bottom of the food chain and that I was a bot and all this other stuff and, that I'm boosted and everything else. So, why would I even heal him? People are people. We all have a breaking point. We all got emotions. We all got feelings, and if we don't like something that you're doing, we'll tend to, retaliate in some way or another. And how do healers retaliate? By not healing. No differently than I've seen DPS throw a match because somebody took their favorite or their main or because somebody asked them to switch because they were 1-9 as an Iron Fist. It clearly just wasn't working. And they're like, oh, well, it's worked for me in other matches. It ain't working in this one. Same thing with a tank. Maybe you're playing a group, but you're getting diffed by another group. Switch to another tank. If you're playing Thor and you're getting absolutely dumpstered on, which happens. I have some games where I absolutely destroy as Thor. Even if I'm a solo tank, I destroy. Everybody else just sits back and watches while I'm just sitting here just running amok, And sometimes I pick Thor and I just get absolutely destroyed. It just depends on the game and who I'm going against. And if you think if I'm getting destroyed as Thor, I'm not going to switch. Same thing with Spider-Man. I love playing Spider-Man. But let's say I'm playing Spider-Man and everybody starts to counter me. I switch. If I'm playing a healer and that healer just keeps getting dived, I don't like playing Loki. He's not really my preferable healer. But if I keep getting dived, you know who I go to? Loki. He was made to like stop people from diving you. You know what I'm saying? You can just press a button and all of a sudden people have to like completely change their whole entire game plan now. Like you can make multiple clones of yourself and just switch between them. Like there's a reason why there's different characters with different abilities for different situations. And it's okay. But I'm going to wrap this video up, but I do think it's interesting though that there is like this, I think Boulder, he's another content creator for Marvel Rivals and was for Overwatch, I believe as well. But, he had said that, this is like the great healer exodus of 2025. And me personally, I don't, like I said, I got extremely thick skin. I don't, somebody tells me any of this stuff, I'm just gonna talk back, like, and get mine off, but it's like a lot of people, they hear this and they just go, what is the point? What is the point of sitting here healing people and dealing with getting dived in the back line? Because like I said, as tanks, you don't worry about that stuff. As DPS, a lot of times, you don't have to worry about that stuff. But as a healer, that's your life, trying to constantly heal people, and all of a sudden you got Black Panther, Iron Fist, and Spider-Man all up in your backline, just going crazy, just picking on you and stuff. And it's not a fun experience a lot of times, only to have your teammates tell you like, yo, I'm not getting healed enough. And it's like, sir, can you turn around every once in a blue moon and just maybe assist in just the slightest way, since I'm assisting you by like healing you while fighting for my life a lot of times, so there's that. But let me know in the comments, though, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the healers are just taking it too personal? Have you noticed it or seen it? Me personally, I have been seeing it the last couple of days. Like, I went from last season where it seemed like a lot of people were constantly insta-locking like healers, and that's what kind of got me to stop saying, I was like, okay, well, obviously I can move on from healing and start DPSing and tanking because there's plenty of healers. But in the last couple of days, it's been like, I'm lucky if I get one person that wants to heal, and this is even in rank matches and stuff. So I have been noticing it myself, but let me know what you guys think. Like I said, do you think they're taking it too personal? Have you been noticing it? Do you think what do you think? Whatever it is you think, let me know in the comments. I try to respond to everybody, but sometimes the comments get, they become a little bit much, and I am just one person. I don't have multiple people that run my channel or anything. So, once it surpasses a certain point, I can't. But that's another reason why you should join the Discord, because that is an easier way to directly tag me and be able to ask questions and stuff like that, or give feedback on things, or whatever the case is. And like I said, trying to build a community here. I really do love hearing from you guys, even when we disagree. If we have a difference in opinion, as long as it's respectful. If it's not, you want to sit here and start calling people names because that's just the only way you know how to communicate, you get muted. It's just that simple. I don't have time and energy for that. I'm a grown man. But if you want to have a respectful conversation and dialogue and actually break these things down, I'm here to talk about it. Like I said, I love hearing from you guys. I appreciate everybody's input, because I do understand that we all have different experiences and think completely different on things, and I love that about us as people. So like I said, just go ahead and put it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, this is Dark, and I'm gonna wrap it up. That's all I got, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.